Hey everybody, it's Julie Sikora. I'm the Contemplative Knitter, and welcome to the hat episode. I haven't been podcasting in a long time. Last time we heard from me, I was in an RV in Florida, but now I'm back home in upstate New York and it's cold weather, and maybe you're looking for a last minute gift for somebody, and you still have time to whip off a couple of hats, probably before Christmas, if you've got some leftover yarn. So I thought it would be fun if I shared a whole bunch of hats I have finished making so you could see some of the patterns and I could tell you a little bit about them. So I've been working on a committee to do a bishop search for the Episcopal Church in Rochester, and I have made a hat for each member of the committee, and I call it sort of visible prayers. It's when I've prayed for them, every stitch in their hat as we've kind of gone through this process. And I started in March and I just finished a couple of weeks ago. They don't know about the hats, so I'm recording this right before I give them the hats. Anyway, another friend of mine who said, oh, I think of every stitch as a hug and a kiss, and what a wonderful way to describe it. So without further ado, let me talk to you about some of these hats that I've made. The first one is for a consultant to the committee, and it is Jason's Cashmere Hat. This is on an Aran yarn, so it's thick. It's the yarn actually spun right round, and it's hand dyed, and it's called Smoke Rings. Because I thought, when you get a new pope, you send the smoke up the chimney. So I thought this would be kind of fun for him. It's a very easy knit. Even if you've never done cables before, it's super easy to do. There's garter stitch in between and a nice little stripe, and this is just a fantastic, easy pattern. And because it's Aran weight, it only took me like 2 days to do this hat. So I have some more of this kind of yarn, so I think I'm gonna knit up some hats for a friend of mine who would love a hat. So Jason's Cashmere Hat, and all of these patterns are in my Ravelry account, which is Julie Sikora, Cicora. Julie Sikora, one word. That's my Ravelry thing, and I'd love to have you as a friend, and if you want to go in and check out the patterns. So Jason's Cashmere Hat. Now I had a co-chair and lovely young woman priest who was just amazing to work with and super easy to work with, and she did a lot of work. So for her, I made the Beeswax Hat. This is a lot of fun. I mean, these are crossing over stitches, and so it looks like a beehive. Number 6 needles. It's a DK hat. So what a fun thing. And of course I had to do it in the gold color because of the beehive honey kind of vibe that I wanted. But it only takes 150 yards of DK, and it's 1x1 crossovers. So it's not hard, you just have to pay attention. Loved doing that hat. Really, really a lot of fun. Now we have a very fun woman who was our web designer, and she is a colorful personality, wears colorful clothes, just like an amazing, talented person. And she always wears super bright stuff to all of our meetings, which makes us smile and cheers us up. So for her, I did the Magpie Darling Hat, which I bought a kit on the Crafty Jackalope. And the hat in itself is plain. It's just a stockinette hat. But the fun part is it's got the sequins in it. So this hat is the Magpie Darling Hat. The color for the kit is called Sunset. It's got yellow wool addicts. Yeah, yellow wool addicts, love, and orange mohair, and the gold sequins, which means it's sequins on gold thread, and the pink and white snap-on pom-pom. So I know she's going to love the pom-pom. She's the only one I did a pom-pom for. But the cool thing about these pom-poms is that they snap on, so you can unsnap it, which is nice, especially if you want to wash the hat or whatever. So I just love this. The kit was great. There was probably yarn left over to make another kit, but I used it for some other stuff. But it just was a lot of fun. That one was really cool. Now we have a priest on the committee who works in the southern tier of upstate New York in wine country. So I went down to the store in Watkins Glen. I think it's called Fiber in the Glen. I've always loved that store. The women are so friendly and so nice. And I bought, they were having a sale on a yarn that was made especially for that store. And I don't have the name of this one yarn, but it's they were almost out anyway. It's about the vineyards, so you can see in this hat how the colors are really cool and makes you think of different kinds of wine and that sort of thing. I decided to do the Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague, and I love that pattern because you can do any weight yarn and you just figure out the gauge. Now the first hat I did in that pattern was fingering. That's a lot. It's a lot of knitting and fingering. Anything with fingering is a lot of knitting. So this one is a DK, and the other half of the hat is Peace Love yarn in the color Hydrangea. And this is a 75% merino, 25% nylon. So I know this guy, this priest, he likes flowers, especially like purple flowers. So I made him this reversible Musselburgh hat. This is always a great use of leftover yarn because you can stripe, as long as you have the same weight. I mean, you can stripe yarn. It's a reversible hat. It's super warm because when you turn up the brim, there's 4 layers. It's just a fun hat, and even though it was DK, it's a lot of knitting. So this is not a last minute hat. The first one I showed you, the Jason's Cashmere Aran hat, any Aran weight hat is going to be fast. DK, not quite as fast, but not bad. Fingering, another story. So that's for him because it's got yarn unique to his geography. So I think he's really going to like it. Then I made 2 of these. This is a fast hat. And not a lot of people have made this pattern. It's called Hat Ashlee, Ashlee. So I used the Barocco Ultra Alpaca, and so for the woman on the committee, she's a real sparkling kind of personality as well. I used some of the leftover gold sequin stuff to kind of spice it up, but it's sort of a lacy pattern, and you can see the gold in there, and it's just kind of an easy lace pattern. Now her daughter lost her husband. He died fairly recently, so I made one for her, for the daughter, and this is the hat without the gold in it. Same pattern, Hat Ashlee. Now, I am realizing as I was cataloging these hats that I think I made this one out of the Ultra Alpaca, and then I made this one out of the Ultra Alpaca Light. So I had some of each in the same color. So this is a little wimbly wombly. So it's not going to be that warm, but it still fits over a head. I put it on, so it still fits. And it's the thought that counts. I think it'll be fine, but it's just not going to be super warm. So mother and daughter hats, the Hat Ashlee. This is pretty fast. 2 days, 3 days. You know, it's not hard at all. It's just a couple of yarn overs. You know, you just have to follow the chart. Super easy chart, repetitious. If you make more than one, you'll know the pattern by heart at the end. Now this is one of my favorite ones out of all of them. I made this for a priest in the diocese who is very into social justice, has a lot of ministries in his parish. His husband died about a year ago. So I decided to make it purple for kind of like a Lenten kind of color for him, that he'd been going through something rough in the wilderness. And then the color work I did in white for a couple of reasons. One, it's the color of resurrection, but two, because it shows up well on the purple. And it's called the Descent Toque. Is that how you say that? Anyway, there's a Dissent sweater, which I have the yarn for. I actually bought Miss Bab's yarn for this sweater. It's a fingering sweater. But what it is it's, and I'm going to make mine in black and white. So the sweater is going to be black, and it's going to have, it has what looks like Ruth Bader Ginsburg's white lace collar. So that's what the color work is. So then the designer, who I didn't write down, but the designer did a hat called the Descent Toque, and it's a hat, and the pattern comes in either fingering or DK. So I picked DK. I just loved how it turned out. So this is the hat. Now it looks like he's also into British stuff. He's into the royal family. So it kind of looks like a crown when you hold it like this. But the sweater, the color work goes down like this. So imagine the sweater looking like this. But the hat, it's done the other way. And it's a DK. It's gorgeous. I love it. I love the little detail here. It just came out great. He's going to love it. There we go. It's just a beautiful hat. Fun to knit. Pattern was fun to follow, easy to follow, because these are the same, and then the smaller ones are the same. The Descent Toque. I didn't write down the name of the designer, but go into Ravelry and put in Dissent, it'll come up. Now, this hat I made up. I just got a hat pattern, which you can do easily. Found on the internet a graph pattern of this bird, and so I made this for our chaplain to the group. So I just used a normal hat pattern, did some color work. These are crosses. Probably should have gone up a little higher on the top, but just took a normal hat pattern and turned it into this kind of bird design. I'm not a perfectionist, and there are some birds that are a little closer together than other birds, but I think she'll like it. So this is in the Barocco Ultra Alpaca, but the thicker one, not the light. So that's for the chaplain. Then I have the Blooming Hearts hat. I got this yarn in Nashville when I was out there. They're supposed to be hearts. They kind of look more like flowers, the way they kind of came out. And I think they look more like flowers because I used a variegated yarn that changes color for the color work. But yeah, I probably need to block this a little bit better. But don't you love the ribbing? It's got the color work in it. So it does look like flower gardens. Now the person this is for is a gardener, so I'll tell her it's supposed to be hearts, but if she wants it to be flowers, it can be flowers. So it's a cool pattern, and I did like the color that the pattern is in. It's sort of like a wheat color with red. Well, the color of hearts, right? And then they put 3 red pom-poms on the top, which look kind of cool as well. So look up the Blooming Heart hat by Deborah Peterson. It's a worsted weight. So it didn't take long. I don't have a dog with white hair, but there's white hair on this, so I'm not sure where that came from. Here is another hat, and I don't know how to pronounce the pattern name because it's Scottish, I think. It's EASWAS by Kate Davies. EASWAS. It's DK, but even though it's DK, it's not super fast because there's a lot to it. I love it. I think if it's this woman who this is for has a lot. She has HR experience, and she was kind of a real star for us to help us through this search process. Anyway, so it makes a star at the top, and I just think it's beautiful. I mean, look at that. I will admit, it's not hard to do these crossovers. It's like a 101 crossover, but you got to pay attention, which I don't always do. So I did have to tink back on this one twice, and I consider myself pretty advanced knitter, but you have to. And again, I'm not a perfectionist, but in this case, I mean, you're going to see a mistake. So I did tink back. I just think it's super cool. I love the pattern. This took a while, even though it's DK. It took a while to do. Again, I think if you did it in a dark yarn, you're not going to see this, but what a beautiful pattern. Love it. Then I decided to do, there's this other woman who always makes us laugh, so I wanted to do something really nice for her. And so I've been looking at the pressed flower shawl, the pressed flower sweater. I've not done the mosaic knitting technique, so I decided to try it with this hat. And I liked it. I chose these colors. This is hand-dyed yarn from Meg and Company. I love Meg and Company. Get on her website if you want to become super happy. Just looking at her pictures of her yarn just make me happy. She lives in Fairport, New York, which is very close to where I am, where my beloved local yarn store is, Liftbridge Yarns, and that's where I bought the yarn. But I just found these colors super fun, and I suppose you could think of them as little crosses as well. But I love the mosaic knitting technique. You know, it's like doing color work without doing color work. So, you know, mosaic knitting is you do a row of the red and you slip the yellow, and then you do a row of the yellow, you slip the red. I mean, it's just so cool. I love the way this turned out. So if you're thinking about doing the sweater, try the hat, and it'll help you get your gauge, as well as you know, instead of doing a big gauge swatch, you get to do a hat, and you have the hat at the end. Pressed Flowers hat. It's a sport weight, and I did it on number 5 needles. This did take a while, but it was, now I'm doing Angela Mowry's Shifty, which is a sweater, a mosaic sweater, because I enjoyed that so much. My last hat to show you is a hat I've had on my list forever, but I found a kit back in the Fiber Glen store in Watkins Glen, and so I did it. It's the Alaska hat. It's just called Alaska, not even Alaska hat. So this is a kit. It's fingering. I kind of did like the night version. So it's cool. The blue yarn is got a variety of colors, and then the silver yarn is just silver. So I think about it as a night sky, kind of. And the priest I made this for has been a guide and a mentor my entire priestly career. So I thought this kind of represented his guiding ability, that he'd be going through the forest showing us where to go. It's not going to be super warm because it's fingering, and it's really soft, wonderful fingering, but I think it's stunning. I think it's just stunning. And again, not hard if you've done color work before. I mean, the way the floats are, they're pretty close together. You just have to pay attention. I mean, it's got a nice long ribbing, and I think it's just beautiful. Alaska hat. All right, well, that's my synopsis. There's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I think, or 11. 11. Shouldn't be counting in front of you. Last but not least, I will show you my sweater, which is an Erica Knight sweater, which I made with her yarn, which, believe it or not, I got in Oban, Scotland, when we got fogged in and couldn't go to Iona, the islands off of Scotland. It's the Kemp Town pullover. It's a lot of just plain stockinette knitting, but it's got some details. So it's got like this detail on the arm, which is a garter stitch. I've had this for a while now. I made the size bigger than what I would normally make because I wanted like a super cozy sweater that, you know, it's windy today and I'm kind of bundled up, and I got this, and I like the details. I need to pill it. I need to shave it. But it's really warm, it's soft, and I love it. It reminds me of being fogged in Scotland. Oban is way up on the north coast. I hope we get back there so I can go to Iona someday. Anyway, that's kind of it for my little hat pattern review. I have some sweaters that I finished since my last podcast, but they're all like summery kind of sweaters, so I may save those. I am working on the shifty. I'm working on the lace and fade boxy Tohe Locatelli, but I will show you that next time. In the meantime, have a great time knitting, and I hope you get some hats that you like.